And we are live, which means I play our intro. All right. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports post-podcast live stream number 4. It's the 4th time we're doing this. I can't believe we made it to 4 already. I'm Paul Dawalibi, the prophet of esports. I'm joined today by my good friend, William Collis, my other good friend, Lindsay Poss, who you may remember from last week's live stream. For those of you who are new to the post-podcast live stream, what we do here is we cover the topics that didn't make it into the podcast. It's a little bit more lighthearted. It's a little bit more fun. And we also love to talk about the things that you, the listener, the viewer, want to talk about. So anything that's on your mind, esports and business related, we want to cover it. We want to talk about it. We want you to be in this to be interactive as possible. We also do this because it's another opportunity to shill William's book.
What's that?
We're running out of excuses, so we do live streams now. Make sure you go buy the Book of Esports. It is real. It's not just William's latest some marketing or Ponzi scheme of some sort. It's an actual book with actual facts, written by someone who actually knows what he's talking about.
The actual book is hardcover too, guys. This is the galley. This is the cheap print-on-demand galley you do to prove. So don't worry. You got a glossy thing. It's a hefty tome. Something that Deckard Cain would carry with him.
I will say this week's post-podcast live stream, I'm going to start it a little bit differently, guys. I will first tease, because my hope is that everyone who listens to the podcast also watches the live stream, right? And so I'm going to tease, for those who don't know, because it's coming out tomorrow, what's going to be on tomorrow's podcast. So you get a little bit of a sneak peek. We have Jason Lake, the CEO of Complexity Gaming, who was a guest. We talk about games that solve mental health problems like ADHD. We have discussion around Apple and loot boxes and a lawsuit there. And we talk about Fortnite's The Device event. So those are the things we covered on the podcast, the stuff we had time to cover on the podcast today. We've got a whole slew of other things to talk about, or we can just talk about the things you guys want to talk about. So
this is honestly the podcast proper, I feel like, today, because
it should be.
We spent most of the time talking with Jason and just asking questions about Complexity and what was happening there. So you guys, you should, you're kind of going to get the full stuff here, the full topics, because there was a lot of good stuff we didn't cover. Can we start? Can I even give us the first topic, Paul? Because there's one I am literally, I think you're dying to talk about it. I'm dying to talk about it. I know Lindsay's dying to talk about it.
Before, I just want to recognize something. Adam says, Lord knows William won't shill it himself.
That was very clever.
This is why he keeps me, Adam. This is why he keets me, because
I just feel bad.
Anything.
I need something of Paul's to shill. I mean, I gotta get your t-shirts. I mean, Paul doesn't bathwater. Yeah, we should.
Hey, that's mine to shill.
Cam Boyd says Lindsay's back. Nice.
Hi, Lindsay.
And Derek says, "Oh yeah, the first FDA-approved video game." Derek, we do talk about it a bunch on the podcast, but we were like, if you want us to talk about it again, we'll do that too. Yeah. Shill Paul's YouTube uploads. Those were pretty cool.
They're really legit. Paul's YouTube uploads are very good, guys. I mean, there
are YouTube uploads. The Business of Esports is us.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fair. But you've done a really nice. I mean, I actually think we're figuring out video content right now pretty well. Since you guys are in the chat, tell us what else you'd like to see. We're experimenting doing the live stream at a new time because we heard that maybe some people were having dinner at 6 p.m., but maybe some people are having dinner at 8 p.m. I mean, you guys, we don't know. This is going to take another month or two to figure out. So tell us when you would want it streamed. Would you want it at 11 p.m. before you go to bed because we're soporific? I mean, I don't know. You tell us, but we really want the feedback, particularly from the early viewers, because when we got to get the format 100%, and I think we're 85, 90. I think we've figured out a lot of it, but I want to get the details fine tuned, and so does everyone here.
So, William, what's the topic you wanted to start with? Because we have like 10 that we didn't cover on the podcast.
Oh
like
my God.
PS5. This
PS5.
is gonna be a long live stream. Buckle
PS5
in.
reveal.
Get snacks. Sit down.
Oh
make
God.
yourself comfortable.
I literally
Evening show.
like have Doritos off
William's
the corner.
kids are in bed. Thank
Yeah,
God.
I can go late tonight. I have Doritos off the corner, and I'm like, would it be too much or just right if I was like eating? Oh, what do you think, Paul?
Chill the Doritos. Maybe we get a sponsorship.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I think that Belle Delphine would encourage you to eat the Doritos.
She definitely would. Belle Delphine would.
No,
be
what's the topic you wanted to start with, William?
PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 reveal.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. We have to.
How do we not get that in the main podcast this week? That's like, honestly, it shows how news dense it is, because that would be like 2.5 episodes in most news weeks.
I mean, let's face it, it's a console, so that's why probably it didn't make it.
Yeah, that's true.
But so this was the CNET article. It says the PS5 reveal was all about games. That's probably a good thing. So that, I'm curious. You guys watched it. I don't need to go into the article here. You guys watched the live stream reveal that they did. What were your thoughts? Were you blown away? Was this the greatest hour of your life? Are you super excited about the PS5? William, what are the business implications of, another console cycle? I don't know. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I have
a lot of feelings. You want me to start? I'll start.
I want you to start.
I'll rip this one a new one.
I know I disagree with you almost completely on this, so this is going to be good. But go, give me your feelings, Paul. Tell me your heart.
First of all, I don't know how anyone stayed awake through their hour-long reveal. You know what it reminded me of? They took everything that was horrible about the Game Awards. Remember that hot garbage pile of a show that was just a bunch of game trailers being shilled, basically one after the other? Like, this was the PS5 reveal. It was just game trailer after game trailer with no explanation in between, almost nothing about the console. Like, literally, you had to get through an hour of game trailers to finally get to the console. By then, I had turned it off. Like, I didn't even care at that point. And let's face it, it's a console. It's literally, you look at the specs, it's like a mid-range gaming PC. And it's about as big as one now, so it's not even that much more portable. Like, there's just nothing exciting about this other than console cycles are good for the business, for the industry as a whole.
Yeah,
it sells hardware, it sells games. But like, the big announcement was GTA 5 is coming to the PS5. Like, this is what people are excited about.
Oh, people like them some GTA 5. What do you want me to tell you?
Other than it's a 13-year-old game.
Yeah. I mean, like, I actually will take the opposite point here, because I like the live stream. Well, I don't like it, and it was 5 minutes.
Just missing Jeff Keighley pretending this was some legitimate show. Like, it was missing his horrible delivery, like fall asleep at the wheel. It would have been a perfect replication of the Game Awards. Sorry to cut you off, William.
Hold on, guys. So just like jumping in here, like getting on the horse, riding into town. Like, let's be honest. It was 5 minutes worth of content stretched to 60 minutes. Like 100%. Like, I can do the whole reveal for you in probably, Paul. We could do the whole reveal in our esports minute. Like that would be the whole thing, right? But I also want to talk about, look, they have to stretch it out, right? You can't do a 10-minute reveal. What was revealed, I thought, was pretty interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, you buy, like, why I care about a console reveal cycle is the games. It's the games that drive platform adoption. At this point, nobody buys a console to go to cutting edge. Oh, wow, that's an amazing. Is that what you treated us, Adam?
Yeah, this is what Adam sent.
Yeah. This is so good. Yeah, it's insane that we do. By the way, did anyone see the meme comparing this to just desk fans?
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
It's been compared to a lot of things. The memes were better than the reveal.
Oh, they were. By the way, it also shows you how, excuse my language, can I swear that, like, how junk the PS3's base design was? Like, I mean, I just looking at it, that's the other one that's the real outlier here for me. But like, again, so here's my thing. So, but like, at the end of the day, what did they reveal? PlayStation 5, we're never going to be excited about tech specs for console ever. Like, there's never going to be a console reveal, let's face it, for the rest of our lives. We're going to be like, I can't believe it's that powerful. My $3,000 CyberPower PC can't do that. That's never. So you're never going to like, no matter what they announce, it's never going to be cool, right? We're past the part of the console cycle where they like try to sell you a peripheral with it too. Like, we're past like, and here's Kinect. It's going to be awesome, guys. Like, consumers have wisened up. It's not going to happen. There's never going to be a big peripheral integrated at launch, at least not barring the next huge leap forward in VR, in which case you're going to know about it anyway because you've already put that peripheral in your living room for everything, right? So what is there to be excited about? The games. I would go so far to say this had a really good launch game lineup, right? I actually liked it. GTA 5, yeah, whatever. But we got Horizon Zero Dawn, which is interesting. I've liked that world. Guerrilla Studios is awesome. Do great stuff. Super excited to go back and see more Alloy. Not the biggest fan of the first game, but appreciated the vision and what they were doing there. We got Demon Souls remake. I mean, come on, guys. Like, if I live and die by the Souls games, and that pops up there, right? We got Deathloop, which is Arcane Studios' new game. If you guys are sleeping on Arcane Studios, they're maybe one of the top 3 greatest developers in the business right now. And I thought Deathloop looked like a really bold attempt to more commercialize the Dishonored franchise. I was super pumped by that. Like, I gotta be honest, there were good games. Like,
are you buying PS5 day one, William, on that basis?
If those games are exclusive, yes, 100%. I saw games I would buy for an exclusive basis for.
So Cam asked a good question. Are exclusives one of the only things keeping consoles alive?
No.
So.
No.
I know that a lot of my friends that are casual gamers prefer consoles.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is they didn't put up the price. So for everyone I know that's a casual gamer has no idea how much it costs and therefore has no basis for how worth it is. So, and I know that they're trying to get the price down to a reasonable level, but that was the one thing that a lot of the people I know that are casual gamers were really looking forward to. And obviously they didn't deliver that. So,
and the fact that they don't post the price means we're trying to figure it out, or we don't want to be first to price. They want to see where Xbox is going to end up.
It's guys, just to put it to rest, the pricing thing is the console sales at this point, and this kind of goes to was it Derek's question, Cam's question about like, oh, hey, Greg's dropping in. Good to see you. This goes to kind of Cam's question about like, are consoles dead? Like, really, the only thing keeping consoles alive today is 2 things. One is it's just a lower price, simpler PC. It's able to hit a more mass market price point because it locks you. So for a lot of people who don't want to spend $2,000 on a gaming computer, don't have the wherewithal to build a $1,500, it's a great value. You get all the games. You know you're going to be able to play all the games for the next 5 years. You know pretty much nothing goes wrong, right? So that, and it's in your living room. It's on your TV. And a lot of people prefer that experience. So that's one reason consoles keep living. The other reason consoles keep living is versus other consoles, they have exclusive titles. And let's be honest, exclusivity is sort of a dying thing right now. There are very, very few marquee games. It used to be pretty much every game was exclusive, right? Think of the Super Nintendo Genesis era. Pretty much every game you wanted was only on one system. There was like no cross compatibility. Now it's the opposite. There's basically a few marquee games every year, 2 or 3 that are console exclusive, and everything else is generic, right? And so the only thing driving console adoption is exclusives, and those are pretty neutral. So what is there left? Price point, right? Because at the end of the day, the price point is for most of the games, these are just windows to play the games. You want the cheapest one. And so the reason pricing is delayed is because pricing is one of the few competitive advantages you can have in the console space. If your console is cheaper than the opposition, but strong enough to play all the games and have good heart, you win the cycle. And so the delay in pricing is just literally no one wants to announce first, because as soon as they do, the other guy's $50 cheaper, because the payoff is enormous in the volumes you drive through the unit. So that's all that's going on here. And I think it's actually super interesting. It's like this chicken or egg, cat and mouse problem. And
William, Greg asks, will people buy at the $500 level? I mean, there's a hidden question in there, which is, will these consoles hit the $500 level? That's not clear to me. I've heard rumors that they were thinking the PS5 at $799.
Oof.
like that high.
Oh,
There are rumors. I don't know. I have a funny feeling it won't be that, right? Because I don't think you can sell consoles at $799. But at $499, will people buy? Yeah, of course. Again, because you can't really build an equivalent PC at $499 and have the same experience. Like there's when you manufacture millions and millions of these, there's definitely there are ways to drive down costs and all those good things. So. Will people buy? Yeah, no question. And console cycles, even that have had very little innovation, people have still bought.
Yeah.
Although what's different this cycle, and it's probably an interesting point, is lots of backwards compatibility being promised.
Yeah.
Especially from the Xbox camp. Being able to play all the old games you bought, things like that. That used to be the thing that drove you to a new console, right?
Well, but it's going to cost too, because very honestly, what people have realized is when you launch, the launch library is $60 and very thin. One of the best things you can do to drive adoption at launch is say, hey, go to your GameStop, if it still exists. We don't know. Maybe they shouldn't plan around that, but show up at your GameStop and go through that rack of $5, $10 games. They all work. That's honestly, it's another way of getting the cost down on these ecosystems. And very candidly, like, there's the result of technological change in gaming has been, I mean, we can talk about there's incredible innovation in some places, but overall, like, you can play 5-year-old games right now and they feel good. Put Doom against Doom Eternal. They're both like, I mean, yes, Doom Eternal is better. It's more polished, but like, you will enjoy Doom. It will feel like a modern experience. So, the backwards compatibility is, again, very meaningful in driving the adoption around the price point. So it makes sense to me that it's such a requested feature.
My take is I actually think PlayStation's going to struggle this cycle. I actually think the success of Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, is going to drive a lot of Microsoft Xbox sales. And I know for some reason PS5 and PlayStation has more of the mainstream gamer love. It gets more hits and more attention and all that good stuff. But I think Microsoft has sort of cracked this one. Integration with the PC, good offering with Game Pass. I think they're going to put something forward that's compelling.
I don't know. I just think the willingness to die on the sword is so high at Sony, right? Like, Sony's basically shown that they're willing to drive their entire business to the ground to win the consoles, because they're still fundamentally a hardware company, whereas Microsoft's been a lot savvier and more flexible, right? I think it's tough to call any console cycle against Sony because it's sort of a giant game of chicken, and Sony's basically shown they've taken their hands off the wheel, but it remains to be seen.
Look, Adam says, I bet you want to sell more digital editions, so they'll price the disc drive version at $500 and the digital 4 to $450, where they'll have better margins on hardware and software. And if you look on a lot of the comments on the design was the disc drive here seemed like an afterthought, like it was never designed for it. And then some executive at Sony who plays golf with an executive at GameStop said, hey, we got to sell some CDs still, like make me a version with a CD drive. And it just was kind of like tacked on at the bottom.
I literally wonder if there's that white wrap because they have to graft it on like the original.
No question they'll sell more digital editions. That's just the way it's going. Greg says, hey guys. Hey Greg,
cool photo, man. I dig that too.
And then Adam says selling more digital editions will be a slap in the face to people with poor internet connections because those downloads would take forever.
Yeah. Although
Greg says, but they could be the same people playing Stadia, so any speed would be an improvement. I mean, putting a console against Stadia is not a fair competition to begin with. But
it's because Stadia has negative latency, so they've already won.
They've already figured that out.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's true, guys. Stadia is honestly.
Let's talk about Stadia. Actually, let's move on because we do have a Stadia article.
All right,
this
I was
week.
enjoying that.
It was a good good segue. I loved this, which was you can now play Google Stadia on practically any Android phone. But then if you read the subheadline, only Pixel, Samsung, OnePlus, and some game phones are officially supported. So it's not really any Android phone. It's just these Android phones. The headline should be, you can now play Google Stadia on some Android phones.
Yeah.
which we're how long into the launch? Like we're more than 6 months, right?
Also, by the way, can we pause and just appreciate that? Scroll down to that promo image. I mean, guys, look at this Frankenstein graft. Like, this is the best
because the controller can't be wireless. Remember, it doesn't work wireless.
But like literally, like this was what the design came up with. Like this was a lot of hours, a lot of thought, a lot of promo image takes. And this is as appealing as they can make gaming on a phone with Stadia look. Like, there's just, you see everything wrong in this picture. Like the tiny screen where you can't tell what's going on.
And he's sitting in a chair, clearly.
Yeah.
Like if you're already in a chair, get a laptop.
I know. Like they didn't even bother to pose it on a subway. Although again, get in a subway car with this and good luck leaving with your wallet. Like you'll definitely.
Also, can we address the very first sentence of this article?
What is it?
It's ridiculous. Google Stadia's cloud gaming service is still riddled with limitations, but one of the biggest hurdles to adoption may have just disappeared. You no longer need a specific Android phone to give it a try. You do. You need one of 3 very specific Android phones.
Yeah. Those are the only ones that are officially supported, right? They're differentiating here that now maybe it may work if you have some other one, but the official support is still only for those 3.
And it's still riddled with limitations. So
I mean, look, we all know Stadia is a punching bag here. I mean, like it's been there, but like I go back to analyzing this picture.
Hold on. Camboy has a good question here, William, because let's stop punching Stadia. Okay. What about thoughts on GeForce Now?
That was a weird one, right? Because it kind of, I think you and I, Paul, thought it was going to be big, right?
Yeah. Like, I thought it had more potential because they took a very like independent approach and a very hardware driven approach, right?
Yeah.
We make the video cards so we can optimize, we can deliver something, very high performance again, because we make and know the hardware. And we're not tied to any studio, any service, right? Like I kind of liked that approach. It was a little bit different. It was cheaper. You could play the games you already owned on GeForce Now. Like you didn't have to go buy completely separate under the Stadia umbrella. I think they did a lot of things right. I think as a consequence of that, they spooked the publishers, and the publishers said, wait a second, like someone's playing a Ubisoft game on GeForce Now. Like we got to stop this. We have to figure out how to get a piece of this.
The whole thing to me feels like it's partly the publishers. Like it was actually such a good offering. The publishers saw it as too risky. Like I think it was packaged to them as like a feature, like just like GeForce will say we have special acceleration for your games or like works best with Ubisoft. Like I think it was packaged to them as a feature, sold in as a feature, and they didn't see it as a distribution mechanism until they realized how it was coming to market. That was part of the problem. The other problem is I think like, and you see GeForce does this with a couple things. GeForce puts out some really cool tech, but without a lot of conviction. You'll see this with many things that they do. Like they even had like a coaching platform at one point. I think it was pretty good. If you guys remember this, like I know because I was doing Gamer Sense. Yeah, they had something like they did a couple things that were weird. They had like a connectivity, but it was all like pretty good tech. But like it's sort of like Amazon did with Crucible, right? They just kind of put it out there, and it's like their approach a little bit is like, we like to innovate. We're a hardware business. We'll do some cool stuff to showcase what the hardware can do. We'll throw the thing against the wall, and if it goes viral, we'll buy into it. And I feel like, look, for all the criticisms of Stadia, it got a huge marketing push. GeForce was like coming out in tech things. It's like, it's here too. You might want to try it. Like no one was really trying to sell you on it. It was just good enough that it kind of sold itself, Yeah,
I don't think they did any marketing really. At all, like very little.
It's just like it was like Tech Shack and like places like that were covering it.
I mean, Lindsay, had you even seen GeForce Now?
I saw it at PAX, yeah.
Oh yeah? Mm-hmm. Did they have a booth or something showing it?
A booth, or I forget exactly what it was, but I visited it.
That's probably the biggest marketing effort they made, frankly. because it really wasn't that pushed.
There's a huge underlying problem with cloud-based gaming, though, and that's that most people in the US don't have great internet service in the first place. So I'm kind of wondering, I mean, these companies aren't taking off. Stadia isn't taking off for several reasons, but one of them is just that, I mean, the average home-based user is not ready at all and they don't have the bandwidth at all to support a cloud gaming service. So I don't really understand the Google's push. I suppose I actually understand GeForce Now's strategy a little more, because at least they're putting their product up on a shelf so that when and if we have better broadband deployment, faster speeds, better bandwidth, all of that, they can say, hey, look at this great product we've had out for years.
I think that's a super smart point. Like,
it's really good.
I think why I appreciated GeForce Now more than Stadia, and I wasn't nearly so hard on it, is just the expectation it set, right? GeForce Now didn't come out and say, we're the greatest, we're the future of gaming, throw away your PCs. Like, you know, like they didn't come out and do that, but Stadia did. And so it's like, you kind of got what you deserve, Stadia. Whereas GeForce Now, if it fails, it's like, they didn't really promise much. They didn't promise anything.
Lindsay's other point is really good too, like virtual high five. But like the GeForce is basically a plus up for gamers, right? It was basically like, you're already gaming, you already have this stuff, you might like to try this. Here's another thing. Maybe it works for you. Gaming on the go wild, right? Like, no incompatibility there with streaming broadband, because the people who have GeForce cards probably have good internet, right? Like, it goes hand in hand. Stadia is like gaming for everyone, AAA titles, no cost. 50% of kids in New York, New Jersey area don't have reliable home internet. There is a total mismatch between bringing gaming to a new market and that market being able to live stream. It's just, you know, it goes back, like, the Stadia thing is just this Frankenstein monster of like corporations believing they can will something into existence. And it's a pity, because there are going to be good mid-tier live stream offerings. Like, I would love to see adventure games, slower paced simulation games, card games, right? All of those could do an interesting live streaming service, even on non-functional, like even on just basic smart TVs, right? But nobody's really pitching at that level of the market, right? Everyone's trying to, other than GeForce, like most people are like, it's going to be the second coming, and like it's not, you know?
You know how we're going to wrap this with a bow, William?
How?
Lindsay? Stadia, when it came out, what was the messaging around Stadia? Do you remember? The primary message. Does anyone watching remember what the primary message from Google was?
It feels like something the professor should know, but I think that's like trauma that my brain is blocked off.
Yeah.
They called it the future of gaming.
Okay.
Right? They proclaimed the future of gaming. Do you remember from the PS5 event what the messaging was?
The future of gaming?
The future of gaming. Like, this, calling anything the future of gaming seems to be a guaranteed way to not reveal the future of gaming. Like, if you're calling it the future of gaming, I've now switched my brain off. I know this is most likely hot garbage. Thank you, Adam. And this is
that was truly the first message that came to mind when you asked that.
Talk about good association.
Yeah, that was the association. It was not the future of gaming. That and negative latency were the first things that.
No, but like everyone proclaiming the future of gaming. PS5 delivered a bunch of games I've seen for the last 10 years on PC, and Stadia delivered hot garbage. But too high of a bar. The bar's too high.
I don't know. I like PS because, like, what are they going to say? Like, and it is the future. Like, it will be how
an evolution in gaming
for the next 5 years. Yeah, well, you're not Paul.
Slightly better graphics for your console kiddies.
If I were still a marketer, you could give me a PS3 and I'd tell you why it's a PS6. I'd be like, lowest cost hardware of all time, fully backwards compatible.
No truth in advertising here. No truth in advertising.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about whoa, that's just me.
That was cool.
Let's talk about AT&T looking to sell Warner Brothers gaming unit for $4 billion. This is an article from CNET.
These stories are good.
And I know the fact that this didn't make it into the Business of Esports podcast, like,
what were we doing
today?
Maybe we should publish the audio from the live stream as a bonus. I don't know. This is just like, these are like killer stories.
People can go watch these live
true.
streams on YouTube after the fact.
That's true.
Which we welcome them to do.
But nobody wants to see my face, Paul. That's the sad truth.
Companies including EA and Activision Blizzard have reportedly shown interest in purchasing the division. Why? I mean, Lindsay, if you had to guess in your mind, why would AT&T want to sell their gaming unit when the whole world is saying gaming's the future? Your research paper is saying gaming's the future. Why would you want to get out of that business if you're AT&T?
Listen, AT&T as a company has been making some very interesting choices.
First of all, are they part of are they like a sponsor of your think tank? Because okay, so this is maybe a little touchy.
A little, but I can still speak on some things. One of the things that we've seen especially is that they purchased DirecTV and are now just essentially letting it fail. Which does make more sense because obviously people are moving out of the cable market, but they also just made their customer service so bad that they were just hemorrhaging subscribers. Like, not everybody is cutting the cord, but everybody at DirecTV is cutting the cord, essentially, is what AT&T is doing. So I think that as a company, it seems like they're refocusing their efforts, and Adam made a joke about 5G and 5G. But I do think that they're refocusing their efforts on infrastructure and broadband infrastructure in particular. And I think they're just letting go of a lot of the other stuff. I don't think anyone over there wants to think about it or deal with it. I think that they have a lot of
weird, right? Like on the same day, on the same day, there was news that Verizon was going to sponsor League of Legends LCS, right? Like, and it's two different things.
I mean,
right?
Comcast has a huge gaming division. It just, every company has different priorities in telecom in that space, and AT&T is really shifting its priorities away from content and entertainment and into broadband infrastructure, 5G deployment, and that kind of stuff. So I can't say why they're doing that. I don't know if they're trying to get a hold on that market more quickly than all their other major competitors. I don't know if they're saving up their money to buy the spectrum so that they can be the main supplier of 5G. I don't know why, but they have definitely shown this trend in the past couple years of getting rid of some of their more content and media based arms. So I don't know. This doesn't surprise me at all.
It is telling that there's an AT&T 5G ad right above the article talking about AT&T selling Warner Brothers. Like, it does show you like where the thing. But like, I mean, is it occurred to anyone else it might just be simpler? Which is, look, there's real economies of scale today in games distribution, right? Like, and in partnering up with larger publishers, and Warner Brothers, despite being a big brand, was a smaller fish, right? It was not an Ubisoft. It was not an Activision Blizzard. It was not an EA. Maybe these assets, which are good assets, right? Like Mortal Kombat, like that's like Harry Potter, right? Maybe these assets are just worth more to somebody with more tools to leverage it, and they're taking advantage of asymmetric price. I mean, this is why countries trade, right? It's classic economics. I would like to think that. I also might think a little bit that some of their brands have struggled recently. Like, let's be honest, the Wizarding Worried of Harry Potter, or whatever the mobile game is that we see pictured here, just didn't catch on like Pokemon Go did, for example, despite having some cool features.
Also, J.K. Rowling just shot that franchise in the foot in this past week. So,
well, let's leave the J.K. let's leave the J.K. out of it. But yeah, like it's tough. And then, like, there hasn't been a huge amount of innovation. Like, they had the Batman games, which were incredible, but those have been sequeled pretty reliably for a while. Mortal Kombat, same thing. I mean, it's tough to call 11 a big step up from 10. Sorry, Ed Boon. I liked them both, but it's not. Maybe it's just time to inject it to someone else who can have more creativity and make more of the asset. I wouldn't think too much of this. Like, it's not like it's one of the top 3 publishers changing hands. This is some great IP locked in a business that's historically struggled, I think, to maximize it. And maybe they're just finally realizing that and shipping it a new home, But then it begs the question, William, as a follow-on,
is 4 billion like, and this is we'd have to do a bunch of analysis and we could probably spend a lot of time on this, but is $4 billion sound like a reasonable price if you're EA or an Activision Blizzard when you're getting really just Harry Potter and Mortal Kombat essentially and a team?
Well, they have some good legacy IP, I think, too, right? Like
you get a lot more characters in Heroes of the Storm. You want to play Harry Potter and Heroes?
Honestly, Paul, don't tempt me. Like, just because actually, there's Heroes of the Storm news today, which did not make the live stream, guys. I tried to convince Paul to feature.
We're not talking about Heroes.
It's not allowed. I like got a talking to. I was like, William, you can never have that in the live streams again. But like, I don't think. I mean, 4 billion is a lot of like this is how I think about billions now when you're buying content, and I think this is a really good metric. Lord of the Rings. Because Amazon, I believe, paid, what was it, close to $1 billion to lock up all the Lord of the Rings rights, right? Mm-hmm. So that, to me, is like my yardstick that I now use to measure content buying, because I'm not saying that was right or wrong. Personally, I think it's insane that any IP is worth that much, but that's at least like that. Are there 4 Lord of the Rings worth of stuff here? Feels a stretch, right?
Feels like a stretch.
Feels like a stretch, even if you count Harry Potter as 2 Lord of the Rings, which I would fight you on to the grave, my friend. I can name all 5 of the wizards right now. You want to go? Like, I would fight you with that. But
it's a very one-sided fight for you.
Saruman, Gandalf, Palando, Altair, Radagast.
Nobody asked for that.
That's like basic, son. I go
nerd
deep.
Flexing.
I have a book on Quenya that I tried to learn when I was like 11 years old. It's sad. It's borderline sad. But anyway, it's not like there's not there added up. I don't think it stacks. So, but also it's the top line price, right? And probably could it sell for 4 billion with earnouts? Of course, I could see earnouts around Harry Potter that go way above that, to be honest with you, because that IP has massive potential to activate. So
here's the question: Who does more with it, EA or Activision Blizzard?
Ooh.
Like, where's the better fit in your mind?
That's such a good question.
Because I struggle when I think through Activision Blizzard. I struggle to think where it fits, other than Activision being able to pump out more mobile games and things like that, which EA can also do. I just don't know where it fits in the portfolio of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, but also doesn't it kind of go to, I'm not saying this to be critical of EA, but doesn't it kind of go to die at EA? Like at EA, the way EA is going to treat those assets is annual Mortal Kombat, annual Batman, right? Like I don't see them turning them into Call of Duty level franchises, maybe the Harry Potter. Can I give like a weird answer here?
Yeah.
I think it would make the most sense to carve the business up. I think you have to treat Harry Potter separately.
I think Harry Potter would match EA well.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they pull a move like they did with Star Wars and make people pay to win, but
just because of the mobile angle and EA's sort of expertise there, is that the reasoning?
Well, their games are more casual anyway. I mean, people who play
Activision Blizzard has King, right, in the portfolio already.
Yeah.
Arguably you've got a lot of mobile expertise there. Mm-hmm. It's a toss-up, right? Like, I don't think there's a right or a good answer.
I'm on Lindsay's side. I think EA does more with Harry Potter. I actually would throw a wild card in there. I would like to see the rest of the franchises at Ubisoft. I think that's a publisher that wants to broaden its reach and scope, that has publicly said they want to look at different types of games and gameplay after some criticisms of sameness across some of the Tom Clancy titles and the Assassin's Creed. I could see Ubisoft doing a lot. Can you imagine the Batman games with the existing Assassin's Creed template? Like, I could see that working incredibly well. And I see them giving more love to the franchises. Because let's be honest, Activision Blizzard, it's always, on the Blizzard side, it's always homegrown, right? So it's not going to live there, right? It's just, it will always be second fiddle. On the Activision side, I think Activision doesn't develop as well, right? Like, they've historically used Blizzard as the innovation factory. I'd rather see it go to an Ubisoft, but who knows? But it's interesting it's being shopped as a total deal and not a carve out too. Like, that's a little unusual to me. I would have thought they would have tried to piece out the IP in the studios, and do this gradually. So another thought. I don't know.
I think if it does sell for $4 billion, history will say they overpaid, though. I think that will.
But good for AT&T then.
Yeah, well, in some ways, maybe that's the play, right? Gaming's hot, get out while people are willing to overpay. Greg brought up a good point. Long T-Mobile. I mean, that's a hard one to argue, to be honest, because they've been all over gaming. They've made a real effort. They've sponsored a bunch of things. I don't think they're going to be buying this unit. But I think a lot of that success at T-Mobile has been about John Legere, who's now no longer there.
Yeah.
Who is quite forward thinking. And I don't know if everyone at the head of a big telco in the US is going to be that forward thinking.
Not to stay on this forever, but just one more thing. It just kills me Disney is not a buyer in this space anymore. Like,
they're a seller,
on.
If anything else.
I know.
Heard.
Like, come on, Disney. You're on such a smart IP aggregation strategy everywhere else. Like, would you not? Come on, buddy. Reel this in. Interactive rights. Like, you could do stuff with it. You could do stuff with this. It kills. I don't know. It kills me. And don't give me the whole Mortal Kombat incompatible with it. Disney does plenty of stuff that is, 18 plus that they don't make a big deal about. Yes, it's never going to be at Disney World, but they can handle some violence. They'll be fine.
I would love for Disney to develop a Harry Potter game. That would be awesome.
Cam says, do you think mobile gaming will continue to boom forever?
I do. It's so accessible. I mean, everybody has a phone. And
what was the last mobile game our live stream viewers played that they liked? I'm just curious. Like, just type it out. While we're talking about this, because I understand. This is a whole discussion on its own, but like, I understand the snackable nature of mobile, and everyone has a phone, so it's accessible. But at some point, all those people who are snacking and accessing, don't they crave more?
No.
Isn't there a natural upwards motion? Like we don't want to just flip coins on a screen or whatever, gems or
absolutely not. I play the same damn game every day, and it's so dumb, but it's like an easy distraction, so I do it.
Hey, was that a Heroes of the Storm jab, Lindsay? Is that where you were going?
It wasn't on purpose, but if the shoe fits.
Julian says, my mom doesn't crave more. She wants to flip gems forever.
Your mom and I are in the same boat.
I love it.
Well, the thing is, too, there's endless substitutions.
I mean, Cam says Pokemon Go is the only game I've enjoyed, but only playing with peers. Greg says COD Mobile, I assume here. And actually this week, PUBG Mobile announced like major investment, right? $850,000 tournament, new studio that they're broadcasting from. Like, okay, if you can convince me that Julian's mom will want to flip gems forever, and therefore there's some market for gem flipping, but I have to believe that the PUBG Mobiles of the world, no one, like at some point, those people have moved upstream. I have to believe that at some point, those countries where mobile is very hot, like I think India is the biggest market for PUBG Mobile. Those countries get richer. People have more PCs and consoles. Eventually, those people move upstream, and no one wants to watch.
You're talking about a big
100 guys on their cell phone playing a battle royale.
What will happen with mobile gaming in the long run? And I'm talking like 20 years, right? My bold call here. We kind of forgot about Fallout Shelter, but in my mind, Fallout Shelter was like a blueprint for what mobile gaming should be. And I'm not saying it was the greatest game of all time. I actually don't think it was that, but it was a decent game. The thing about Fallout Shelter was I could love Fallout 3. The publisher recognized it was difficult for me to play Fallout 3 on my own phone. They didn't try to do that. They made a micro experience that has still allowed me to get the Fallout world and gave me rewards back in the core game to fill my on-the-go time with Fallout 3. And I really think that's where we're going. Like, the future is going to be, okay, you're never going to be able to play Valorant on your phone. But here's the Valorant Combat Simulator, which lets you unlock XP progression, levels, and some unique gear for the core Valorant experience. I think it will be just like right now when you're on your phone and you want to lean back experience, you turn to Twitch to get more Valorant or whatever game it is. I'm just using Valorant as an example. Eventually, there'll be a lean forward equivalent, the snackable Valorant. But yeah.
You want my thoughts on mobile long term, and I mean long term. I mean like 20 years, right? I actually think it's not about the mobile screen. It's about mobile as a portable computing unit, right? In other words, the 20-year vision in my mind is I carry this thing around, right? It's always on me. But if I'm somewhere where there's a big screen and a keyboard and a mouse, plug myself in, can play everything I have on my phone, full blown. Like the phones at that point are going to be so powerful, right? Like plug it into a headset. I've got something VR. Plug it into some, other input method or controller or device or
Stadia's controller and play it.
Right. Where they're potentially you use the brains and the computing power that you're carrying around to power a more immersive, fuller, fleshed out experience.
Well, that's why I think that mobile's not going away, because there's a huge infrastructure jump between mobile gaming and any type of other gaming, even including console. And that infrastructure includes a connection. So in a lot of developing countries, that's not nearly as possible as it is in the West. And even here, a lot of people use their phones as their main source of connection in the home. So if everyone is kind of becoming more and more reliant on their phones for a lot of basic tasks, I mean, my friends, some of them just have unlimited data rather than Wi-Fi now. They're certainly not going to switch from mobile gaming to PC gaming or even console gaming anytime soon.
But I think that's the opportunity, right?
It is.
Replicating the bigger experience, but not being tied to input methods and a tiny screen. Right?
And
like
that's where
to
I
me,
think that there'll be some...
flipping gems will be relegated to Julian's mom and Lindsay. Well, at some point, people are going to plug this into something else and get the connectivity, like Lindsay said, which they may not have anywhere else, and the computing power they may not have anywhere else, but leverage it in a more traditional, fully fleshed out experience.
The other place you guys can look if you want to get a sense of what a near future of mobile gaming might look like is the Japanese market, because you can see that Japan, there's a lot more primary phone use there as a form of connectivity, even versus, like America, right? And also there's a much bigger commuting culture. And so you actually see it's why a lot of the best grossing and more sophisticated mobile experiences come from Japan. It's why you have something like the Switch as a console expression. The Switch, I think, is a beautiful example of the thing you buy when you're done gaming on your phone and you want something a little more, but like you're not ready to go full in Matrix yet, like you're not springing for your Alienware PC. I think that's an interesting near future. And I also expect we'll see more hybrid and interim form factor jumps, like the Switch. I suspect it'll be PS4 portable, things like that, but remains
not PS5.
I don't know how they'll brand it, but it's not.
You don't think they're going to take that huge thing, that big Dyson fan, and just shrink it down?
It is portable. It is portable right now, Lindsay. Why are you making fun of it? You can put it in a backpack and game on the go. And
Lindsay's just the pro on the show because she gave me the perfect segue to the next article. Another console. Did you guys hear about this? Because who cares about Xbox, PS5, mobile? We're wasting our time with all of these. CNET's reporting that KFC actually isn't releasing a game console to compete with Sony's PS5, even though KFC did put it on their own social media that they were launching the KF console, which I think is a clever name, or KFC onsole. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is. But evidently it's not real. And you notice the wording that they use, guys? Oh my God. It's the recipe for disaster, which is why I wasn't, that excited when I heard about it. It looks like a real gaming console with a power button, disk drive, and red lights. They also claimed it has cross-platform compatibility and a release date of November 12th. What's especially funny is after the fact, they actually said, hey, our KFC console got more engagement on social media than the Xbox Series X did.
Well, it's also better visually designed. I find the KF console oddly appealing.
It's also multifunctional. If it's a bucket, you can put things in it.
So function aside, because I'm sure they haven't figured that part out yet. Isn't it weird that KFC in a meme trolling tweet put out something more desirable, it seems, than both the current next gen console offerings?
Yeah. I mean, it just it's not really that
brilliant marketing. Let's talk. We want to talk the business angle. This was brilliant. Yep. KFC, continues to do great things in gaming. Camboy says wireless controller charging in the bucket.
See,
Lindsay, that's genius.
Yeah, game and organize.
That's actually really genius. You're right.
Yeah, at the Venn diagram of gaming and interior design.
Oh, you could use the heat from the graphics card to warm your chicken. Like, can you imagine that? If you oh, dude, this makes so much sense. And the GameStops are all going to go out of business. So now you have a built-in distribution model, right? Like,
KFC loves partner restaurants. The Taco Bell KFC is one of my favorite things of all time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
GameStop
That's true.
KFC.
That's true. Yeah. And like there is a somewhat rich history of quick service restaurants having mediocre to strong video game tie-ins, like the Chex first person shooter, the Pepsi racing game. There was a McDonald's game, the Lost Skittles games. I remember that. That was like, I guess it was on quick serve. There's like consumer facing brands, but yeah, I could, oddly enough, like it is a troll, but like they've done it well. And like, oddly enough, it wouldn't be the worst idea ever. It's not a good idea, but it wouldn't be the worst idea ever.
But William, let me ask you this. Why don't we see more consoles? Right? Because look, they've got a great design here. The hardware is a total commodity. The software could be running some, essentially cut down version of Windows that any developer can build games for, or any game can be ported to. Why don't we see more? Do you remember the Ouya? It was like it ran Android games and stuff like that. Like those things seem to come and go. They all fail. Why is it so hard?
It goes back to the market factors I talked about. It's price and exclusives, right? Exclusives, it's difficult to have the credibility as a new console manufacturer to negotiate good exclusive games, right? Unless you have tons of money, so it's tough to get those. And then it's a totally game of sales volume. So once you know that there are 3 people in the market every year, right? Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, right? When you become the 4th person, you shrink the growth curve for everyone. And it's very difficult to look, clearly PlayStation doesn't have confidence in their pricing. They would like to charge, if they could come out at $199, they would have, right? They want to charge a higher price than they think the market will likely bear. And they're waiting to see how much of a bath they're going to have to take based on the Xbox pricing, right? It is tough for new, and that is with massive predicted volumes. Even if it sells badly, it will still be it'll still move millions of units, right? As a new console manufacturer, you just don't hit those volumes. So you can just never compete on the price. If you don't have the exclusives, you don't have the price, you can't break into the market. Steam couldn't do it. Valve couldn't do it. I just think it's a really hard market. Like, I think Valve can do anything. Valve might even be able to make Heroes of the Storm 2. I don't know. We'll see. But if they couldn't get into the market when they already had an integrated online gaming distribution service, I get why it's sexy. I get why they get funding, because people always think there's an angle and there's enough third-party content to scoop up and we can do this cool. The only thing like this that sort of ever worked have been things that really nip on the edges of programming and tinkering communities where they're engaging a totally untapped audience. So this is a purely incremental sale. Everything else, you're doomed to fail,
So we won't be launching a console anytime
soon.
Well,
we could launch the Business of why didn't we do that? The Business of Esports console.
It only runs our podcasts and our live streams.
But that's all you would need.
But nothing else. And it's just a huge box. It takes up all the space in the living room.
No, Paul, that's wrong. It only officially supports our podcasts and it live streams. But The Verge will write an article that says Business of Esports console plays every game of all time.
Yeah, and Cam says, and a racing sim for William, because he likes to go fast.
I like cars.
He likes cars.
There'll be a battle game between Paul and Google Stadia.
I have more Google Stadia news, Lindsay. If you want to go back to Google Stadia, if you really want to go
good at providing segues, apparently.
we can go back there. This one was somewhat shocking. Ubisoft's next open world game leaks as an unfinished prototype on Stadia. Guys, I don't even want to bash Stadia anymore. I'm just going to leave that as is. Let's talk about something more interesting. Amazon, that they unveiled this closed beta for a new MMO called New World, and supposedly it'll be available July 23rd.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you find it weird that a company that just launched a game to great failure, right? This was not a success, would be announcing a new game so soon? What does that say about Amazon? What is it like? Does it shine more light on the theories we had regarding what was the other game's name now? William, it's escaping me. Crucible, right? Like we thought maybe Crucible, they just didn't have conviction, didn't care. Like Amazon seems all in here. Like you don't just keep announcing games unless you're very serious about this.
Unless you're waiting to shut down the studio and you're getting out what you have to collect, which is honestly what it feels like. Like this is another one that's like sort of come out of nowhere, doesn't really feel like it has a strong reason for being. Like honestly, the Amazon offering feels like an executive was in a meeting and was like, well, here are the biggest genres of gaming. We have MOBA for the competitive audience. We have MMO for the social audience. Like, I guarantee the next game they're going to announce is like a Minecraft clone, right? For the creative audience. We can capture 75% of gaming consumers, and we already have a sales portal that reaches them today, Amazon.com. Why? Like, this is paint by number. You know, what bugs me is you can, and I don't want to, I know probably a lot of people work very hard on this, and I'm sure there's some cool things in it. And I actually, from what I know about New World, I like some of the things I'm seeing, but like, it just doesn't feel like it has a reason for being. Like, I don't know. I can look at games now, and maybe this is foolhardy for me, but I can tell when they feel loved, right? Like, I can see a game like Arcane Studios' Deathloop in the PS5 reveal trailer, and it's making all these weird choices and doing all these weird things. And at the end of the day, you just feel like the reason for it coming to market is people believed in it. Like, nothing in the name, the promotional imagery, the mechanic, like nothing makes me feel it has a reason for being other than let's launch an MMO, which, by the way, historically MMOs have been the worst market to enter. There's never been an MMO that's worked after World of Warcraft. It won, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, but that's also the flip side of that is that's also the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Someone looked at the market and said, wait a second, no one's made a good one in like 20 years. Let's try and make one.
Yeah, but you're never going to be, hold on, I'm going to go. This is time for me to stay there, guys. This is shameless self-plug. Can I go get something off camera here?
Yeah.
I'm going to get something off camera here. Hold
on. Now I don't know what he's getting. This was not rehearsed.
Yeah.
He's going off script, Lindsay.
A giant bag of Doritos, maybe.
I mean, do you think maybe Amazon their strategy is just, we've got so much money, we have so much market power, let's just make as many games as possible, and eventually one will be a hit, right? Like it's like the total like let's fire 1,000 bullets approach.
I'm back.
Well, I mean, Amazon has tried and is trying to enter like every single possible market they can. And I keep thinking about the Kindle Fire phone that they made. They tried to get into the mobile phone market, and it just didn't work. But that didn't really matter because they still put a lot of time and effort into developing it, and Bezos was still really excited about it.
But then haven't you fundamentally just agreed with what I said, which is like this like scattershot approach? They'll try anything, and they'll like, and doesn't work, doesn't matter. They just keep pushing forward, right? Like,
I mean, that's what this feels like. It certainly doesn't feel like there's a big underlying strategy where they suddenly take over the world of gaming or release something. But for a company that has so much money and so much reach, I never want to count that out either.
William, what did you get off screen?
I wanted to go get this. So like 10 years ago, I wrote this case, this Harvard Business School
Hold on.
case.
I'm gonna get you a bit bigger here.
One game to rule them all. I say I wrote.
Yeah.
A bunch of smart people wrote it, not who are much smarter than me, not just me.
One
Rob
game to rule them
McJohn,
all.
Hannah Halliburton, who's like an amazing academic. If you don't know her, Ivan Nalcieda, a bunch of writing this convinced me you can never win the MMO market. Like it's just structurally, there's my gaming chair on the side because I'm standing up. It's just structurally too hard. Like it literally is structurally about the most network effects driven market possible. So once you get entrenched, like every other market, World of Warcraft is so old. And yes, it's a very good game, but like it should have been knocked off a million times. I'm telling for anyone out there who's listening, do not launch an MMO. You will not win.
The single most depressing thought I think I've heard this year. It's more depressing than coronavirus.
let me put it this way, right? And I'm sorry, it's true. It's just the reasons you play MMOs and like MMOs have very little to do with the MMO itself. It's a social network. It's literally, it's the same reason you can't like.
But that would be an argument against. I mean, Facebook has 2.7 billion users, but it's not like
other social networks pop up. Yeah.
100%, right? And you can go through like Instagram. Like the difference here, right, is twofold. One is you're competing. All of those other social networks have a differentiated feature. There's a reason for the market to bifurcate, right? MMOs, for a bunch of which we can't go. Structurally, the market doesn't bifurcate well. It just doesn't. There's not enough subdivisions within the type of gamers who play MMOs and the occasions you play MMOs at. It's not like, say, what other network, like a dating website. It's not like a dating website, which is very network effects driven, where you can have eHarmony and Match.com and Tinder. And no, I'm not on a whole bunch of dating websites. I just know this because we looked at the dating websites very closely as a proxy for MMOs because they're actually very similar. Like finding a group and finding true love is surprisingly a similar problem.
Looking for group, LFG is I'm surprised no one has done a dating app called that.
Well, they already did the gaming thing, Paul. We lost that the gaming session.
I know, but looking for group was the perfect name.
Paul, it's not too late. Add that to our $1 million business ideas that we're just piling up.
Hold on, back up, William, 1 second, because I love this. Right?
Yeah.
Bezos is a Harvard guy, no?
I don't know. Actually, I don't.
Not a Harvard guy. No, maybe Yale,
I think. Yeah.
But like you would think someone would have read your case and said, let's not do an MMO then.
I mean, or rather, it's not don't do an MMO. I'm wrong. It's like no one wins an MMO without total sustained conviction across the, like, this is not the sort of thing you drop in the market and it works, right? Like you have to, I'm talking like to do an MMO today, it's like launching an MMO today would be, to go against WoW would be the equivalent of me saying, I want to launch a social networking site to go against Facebook. Yes, you can do it. The resources, the commitment, and the time it takes, even if there are vulnerabilities, like Facebook's a great example, there are vulnerabilities today. Kids don't like it, right? Let's be honest. You can't do it unless you're just totally committed. And of all the genres for Amazon to go into, this is one you don't win with a pocket community and you don't spike it. It's not a Mario Brothers Lost Levels design challenge.
But if anyone can win it, it's Amazon, who already has... a billion users and, a whole bunch of, like, how hard is it for Amazon to say, join New World and get $5 in Amazon credit?
Yeah. How hard is it to say join New World and never shop for groceries again? All your Prime deliveries are free. They could do, yes, they could work. And that's why the weirdest thing about all of Amazon's strategies, it feels like there was a disconnect. It feels like at a high level, somebody said we're going to make some really big bets, right? And we're Amazon, we don't do anything small. This is our next multi-billion-dollar vertical, all chips in. And then somewhere between that and execution, it got filtered down, whether it was budgets or ambition or some senior mid-level management that didn't quite know how to exit. And it just feels like the scale of the ambition is one that would be bought off on the C-suite. The scale of execution is one that feels regional marketer trying to hit the numbers,
I also wonder, I mean, they are known for pushing things a little bit too early as well. I wonder if this was an idea that came into the C-suite, a year and a half ago, and now a year and a half later, you have to have a certain deliverable that goes out, whether it's ready, whether you're ready to make a splash, whether you have worked out a marketing strategy or not.
Yeah.
You know what I love about Amazon though? They're trying.
That's true.
Which Activision Blizzard is not doing.
Oh,
they're actually trying.
They have the pockets to fail, so.
But they're trying to create new stuff
Yeah,
in categories where all the experts in the world say don't try making an MMO.
Yeah,
like,
they are
doing.
doing.
I love the guts to do that.
And they are doing the things to hit it big. Like I think one thing I'll point out, and then we can stop going this, is the interesting thing across both of Amazon games is new IP. New IP. They did not. Amazon could very easily have grafted on. To me, that goes to, again, the scope of ambition here. Amazon recognizes that games are media properties, and they were trying to hit it out of the park, and they weren't going to lob a win to, a Lord of the Rings franchise license game, which they probably could have done if they'd wanted to. This could probably be a Lotro MMO if they wanted it, right? It shows that somebody really believed in let's make this work. This is like a Lasseter level like investment that you saw with like Disney Infinity and things. That it's just weird. The rubber didn't hit the road right now, but I hope it will.
William, you want the hot take here? It's process beats intelligence, right? Systems beat intelligence. And here's the 20-year view. My view is if Amazon keeps up the way they are and Activision Blizzard keeps up the way they are, 20 years from today, we will be having the discussion. Amazon will be 10 times the size game publisher than Activision Blizzard is. And I'll tell you why. If there's a culture of Amazon of we don't care about failure, we're going to put new stuff out there consistently, of relatively good quality over and over again without ever stopping, without ever hesitating, without ever losing that ambition. If they do that for 20 years, they're a bigger game developer than Activision Blizzard is today. In my mind, no question, because the attitude, the process, to me, that wins every second, every time over an established studio that just thinks they're better or has more experience. Right? Putting out more quantity over time will win, in my opinion.
Well, Amazon's flywheel focuses so much on innovation. It doesn't surprise me that this is a space they've chosen. There's success. I still think that they can make a comeback with mobile phones if they wanted. I know that the Fire Phone was a flop, but if they wanted to make a mobile phone, they could keep going with it. If they're really interested with games and they keep going, they'll eventually get to something that's a hit.
I agree. I think that's it, right? You put out 100 games, one of them's going to be a Fortnite. You put out 2 games, chances are pretty slim.
I don't know if gaming quite works with that strategy. Like it's not stick against the wall and see what hits. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. And I mean, the one thing about Amazon is you literally Amazon is it's like 25% of my household expenditures. Like at this point, it's all I use for pretty much everything. Right.
Well, 60% of your internet surfing.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. I mean, it's the only thing you should be using too, because it's the best place to buy the Book of Esports on Amazon.com. The best place. Check it out.
Oh my God.
But there we are. See, the only portal you would ever need. But look, like that level of stickiness. I mean, they could make a car company work. They could make a satellite. They could make any business work. Yeah.
I think they might.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just,
you give Bezos enough time in his prime. I think he may end up doing all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, let's not forget, I mean, particularly in gaming, they have Twitch, right? So they control what is the holy grail for content creation right now. So these guys, they'll make it's just disappointing to me. I thought they would get there faster. Like I think back in 2018 when we were starting this podcast, was it 2018 we started this in, Paul? Is that right?
In 2018, yeah.
Jeez, that's a long time ago. But back in 2018 when we were starting the podcast, like I think I said in one of the episodes, like Amazon is going to destroy this space. Like just you wait, 2020. They should, but they're not right now. And it kills me. And also some of the like Crucible.
Because I think it's a 20-year view.
I don't know. Something isn't quite right there. Like Crucible to me feels like a game that if you baked it for another year, it might have done something, like.
Cam says you guys have talked a lot about poor management in game dev too. Seems pretty critical. Sorry, Lindsay, what were you saying?
I have a follow-up question, so do this first.
No, go ahead. What's the follow-up question?
Oh, I was just going to see if you all thought that Amazon would start acquiring development studios instead of continuing to do it in-house.
It's a good question.
They're
not averse to acquisitions, right? They bought Twitch. But I struggle to think, given that they've already invested in the space,
right,
that they'd make an about face and then all of a sudden start acquiring.
Yeah,
I think probably too. I don't. Short term, I don't think so. Short term, I'd be very doubtful, because what are they going to buy? Who are they going to buy?
Yeah, and
most of them are owned by Tencent already.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. Yeah,
I don't know. That's a tough.
I think Bezos is too smart to pay $4 billion for Harry Potter and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's not. There's a lot you could do with that. I mean, it owns the idea of spelling things with slightly off way to get you a trademark. Right? Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting one. They'd have to fail a lot more than this, because I suspect they want to do a pan ecosystem activation too, and for that they'd want to have total rights control, and things would just be tough to get with a legacy acquisition. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, they seem committed to gaming, so if they fail enough, I suspect they'll go a different route, right?
William, don't you want this MMO to succeed though? Deep down, something to knock WoW off its perch, totally upend the gaming universe.
I would like nothing more than an amazing MMO. I really mean that. A part of me hungers to experience again what it is like to have to wake up at a specific time of the day to check on my auctions on Orgrimmar and make sure I'm profiting accurately from the silk trade. I need to go back there. But the thing is, I spend so much time in MMOs, or the MMO I did play, which was why I spent so much time in. The bar is so high. Not New World. New World doesn't. I want a passion project that's so unique, that's so different, that's so ambitious, that I feel it calling me, and I don't feel this game calling. So yes, I want a new MMO, and yes, someone should come in, and yes, every year WoW is softer, the opportunity gets better. I want someone to do it. I don't know if I want this one to be the one that makes it there.
Guys, I think that's it in terms of topics. Cam says mediocre management can keep pumping games out, but the next level will be achieved by true leaders. I mean, I agree. Activision Blizzard has not shown real leadership on new game front. I mean, we didn't talk about it much, but one thing we glazed over on, I think it was 3 weeks ago on the podcast, is the cancellation of BlizzCon. Essentially, I think they've just given up on new games. I mean, it's got to be that, right? They've just we don't have anything.
60-minute video.
What's that?
Maybe they'll just release a 60-minute video.
Yeah, of nothing but game trailers for the same 3 games that they have. Just coming soon. Another DLC for Call of Duty coming soon.
Diablo 3 Season 9, not Diablo 4, but come on. You want it. Overwatch 2, almost. Still not quite there. We're not sure why we can't get this out.
But it's interesting because I feel like I must be missing something, right? We had Jason Lake on from Complexity on the podcast today, and he was very candid. He said, look, we looked at the Overwatch League offering and we said, not a chance. Yeah. Right? We're not interested. The business doesn't make sense. Well, we'd rather buy the franchise for 3 times the amount if you've proven that this thing is successful, right? And in spite of that, he gave a lot of credit to Blizzard management. He says, look, they're not stupid guys. They're smart guys. I'm not seeing it. Where are the smart decisions here?
Yeah, I mean,
and again, I put it in the context of Amazon and this discussion of any innovation, anything new, any kind of effort is better than sitting and doing nothing, right? Literally anything.
Just
astute gamers will notice I'm wearing an Activision Blizzard shirt, right? Can you guys see? I mean, I would do I love that. The one thing about a hit-driven business, just bluntly, is you always look behind the curve until the next hit, right? So credit to Activision Blizzard. Just you wait. you know, when Diablo 4 is bigger than you think, we'll all look really dumb. You know, the virtue of hit driven, it's sort of like startups where you don't need to have every game in your portfolio succeed if one goes big enough. But yeah, it is weird to me. And I wonder if there's not incubation, you know, more incubation happening than is public right now and more soul searching going on. But we'll see. I mean, the other thing is, like I said, I had so many friends leave that business. It's tough for me to believe that people I respect in the industry are leaving a ship where, you know, everything is right. You know, there do seem to be real problems there. But yeah, but going back.
Let me just add one thing, actually, a little twist in this conversation, because I forgot that we even had this. This is an article about how Andreessen Horowitz, like famed venture investors, are investing in games. Not gaming industry, not gaming tech. They're actually investing in games. And I thought the article was fascinating because Andreessen Horowitz has deep, deep pockets, right? We're talking one of the largest venture investors on the planet. They have 12 billion in assets under management, right? Where they can invest in 10 games, 20 games, 30 games and have this portfolio. But I think what struck me is this is so much kind of the Amazon strategy, quantity, right? That's where it works when you have a portfolio, because you only need one big hit, but you can only get that one big hit by having exposure to a lot. It seems completely counter to just most of the big game publishers, right? Who have taken almost anti-diversification, anti-portfolio approach.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. I mean, like the existing game publishers have tried to double down on what's working to mitigate the risks. There is another structure here that works. Well, like both strategies are valid. I don't think you can say one is bad. It's just like, because the game publishers are in the act of creating themselves, right? And they think they're better off because they have a better sense of the quality pipeline as a game comes along. They think they're better off betting big because they have more of that insider knowledge, right? Whereas if you think of an A16Z here, right, like they're not going to have that insight. They're not going to be intimately familiar with the development pipelines and the cadence, and so they're probably better off with a chips on the board strategy. I think both are valid. It's not like one's smart and one isn't. It's just they have different knowledge bases about what's being produced at different stages, so they have different ways of real de-risking, right? Yeah, I don't know.
But Lindsay, like, I'm curious, when you see two very large entities with lots of capital at their disposal following similar, it seems, strategies, although, Andreessen is just writing a check, Amazon's writing a check but creating, like, does that not tell you something? Like, when you look at that and you see a trend like that, do you not start to draw some conclusions about maybe where the industry's going?
Well, and I can't help but compare it to where the movie industry has gone recently, which is to largely remakes and sequels. At some point, there's going to be a type of starvation for new and original content that could come back to basically bite Activision Blizzard in the ass, I think. It's a really short-term strategy to me to keep doing what works. I mean, that's really easy and there's no risk and it can work, but eventually that is going to erode at, new customer acquisition and new interest and new business and all that. I don't know. The same thing is happening in Hollywood at the moment. How many Marvel movies can you make before people are bored of them? We haven't reached that limit yet, but the limit does exist, and it exists.
I don't know about Marvel. There's that. Did you see that Onion?
I've reached that limit personally.
My limit was basically like 0. So
there was a brilliant. Sorry, this is off topic. There's a brilliant Onion article that was like, Disney CEO lives in mortal terror. 36 Marvel films is too much. Like, and he's like, honestly, every day I wake up and I'm just like, please give me one more. Just give me one more.
Marvel was very creative in its development. They sat down and came out with a 20-year plan with movies released and a structure for releasing them and all that stuff, which is great. But when they reach the end of the 20 years, which is coming up fairly soon, they're going to need to rethink their strategy. And I think that it's good that they made it a 20-year plan rather than an indefinite plan. If Activision Blizzard said, we're going to, for the next 5 years, ride out our legacy franchises and continue developing those. But after that, reevaluate, then I'd be a little bit more excited. But the fact that there's kind of an indefinite end to when they're going to get new IP or original stories or anything like that is a little disconcerting to me.
Yeah, there's no transparency.
Yeah.
Which they also have no reason to share any of that, but
true. I will say the other reason I think this story is major is I've often said one of the key milestones the industry, the business of esports, the business of gaming has to hit is you need one or two very large VCs to have dedicated personnel to the space. And to me, this is a very significant landmark. And yes, Andreessen Horowitz has been looking at the space for a while. Never has it been so public. Never have partners been named who are, looking like Andrew Chen, who's doing a lot of the stuff in games. So like, to me, this is, I guarantee when you look at the history of the business of esports and the business of gaming, and you're pointing out key milestones, this is going to be one of them. Andreessen Horowitz has some of the smartest investors on the planet. The fact that they're investing heavily in the space, have people dedicated to the space, it means every other investor who's not is now officially too late. You're officially behind as of today. I think that this is the level of urgency I would take from an article like this. Seriously, William, I know you're shaking your head, but
no, I'm not. I'm nodding. I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm saying I think that's a good point. I agree. I think these guys coming in, I am skeptical of any fund doing media and content for different reasons, but I agree that these guys coming in is a real wake up call. Like, if you weren't looking at or seriously considering this sector, like, the easy money's gone now. Good luck.
No, it's but it's not just that. It's like high net worth, family offices, other VCs, private equity funds, like you name it. To me, when you have a leader like Andreessen, and arguably they're almost always going to be the first into a space because that's why they're leaders. They see trends before others do. To me, like, this is the wake up call. You have to be following. You can't not participate anymore. And I'm not saying there's where I don't agree is like now all the opportunity is available. You wait any longer, it will go away.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's interesting. I don't know. Either way it's really significant. It's really significant. That's for sure.
On that note, guys, I think that ends the live stream this week. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Lindsay. As always, Lindsay's going to be here every week, guys. Like, you better get used to it.
Lindsay's great.
We've managed to rope her in as a regular. And Cam says, right on, great stream today, everyone. Mostly William and Lindsay. But make sure listen to the podcast when it drops. It's a great episode tomorrow. Every week also I've been putting out 1 minute, like, all the news you need to know from that week, all in kind of 1 minute, and my hot take on each one. Check that out on our YouTube channel. I also put it out on my LinkedIn. Make sure you go buy the Book of Esports.
Seriously, please. If
you haven't already.
Amazon lets you buy more.
I don't know how many times you need to hear something.
I know I've said that before and people have gotten back. I'm just saying my mom bought two, And
it's returnable. So if you read it and you want to send it back after, that's cool too. Actually, I don't know.
No one's going to want to return it, Paul. No one.
I'm trying to sell you more books here, William.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
And make sure to check out the live stream every week. We're going to do it after the podcast every week. We've been toying around with the time. Would love your feedback, guys, this week. Please let us know. Send me emails, texts, whatever, DMs, whatever, to let us know if this time was better. We tried to do it a bit later so it doesn't interfere with dinner on the East Coast. We were thinking about maybe doing it earlier in the day. So let us know what you guys appreciate and like best. And on that note, we will see you guys next week.
Have a wonderful day, guys.